I'm Amber Stinson, Communications Specialist at Vigo County Public Library, and I'm here with Jennifer Mullen, who works at Indiana State University as a Senior Instructor of Communication and a Professional Experience Coordinator. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. But today we're really going to be discussing her role as a co-founder of the 12 Points Revitalization Initiative, which we're really excited about. So we're going to delve into her leadership role a little bit more.
Okay,
Is that
sounds
okay
good.
with you?
That's perfect.
Good. So can you start by giving us a little bit of background about yourself and how you became so passionate about the Terre Haute community?
Well, as you said, I'm a senior instructor at Indiana State University, but I've grown up in Terre Haute in my entire life, and you know, I just am a difference maker, and my dad sometimes tells me, he's like, Jennifer, you're not going to change the world, but I'm like, well, through my experience at Indiana State and through a couple of professors, namely Dr. Darlene Hansis, she's like, you have a voice and you might as well use it, right? So, and I'm never going to be in a political role in Terre Haute. That's not my bag. I don't really want to listen to people complain all the time. And I feel like you have a target on your back, but what I can do is go to the community forums and sit in the front row and take good notes and ask questions about what we can do as citizens to change the community, and not just be, kind of complain about things, but how we can problem solve and help, with the resources that we do have access to in the community. And so, there's some blighted areas that people have talked about, and it's not just a Terre Haute problem, it's a national problem, right? But what can we do as citizens who aren't necessarily in these political roles to do our part to help change things? So, as you drive around Terre Haute, you might see a bunch of Polar Pop cups and a bunch of, fast food wrappers and things that you maybe didn't see in the community 50 years ago. But, we're a community and just a nation of convenience. So people just have a habit of throwing their, and that's another thing, cars don't have ashtrays anymore. So people just have a tendency to throw their cigarettes out the window. So I'm like, man, and I teach public relations at Indiana State sometimes, and I used to teach this theory called the broken windows theory. And as you drive through neighborhoods, you'll might see some broken windows in some blighted communities. Well, if those windows aren't fixed, then you're just going to continue to see more broken windows, and it's just going to continue to go downhill. But I also went to a global leadership summit, and one of the keynote speakers talked about how when you have blighted areas and scary areas, people kind of turn a blind eye and they ignore them. And in order to solve a problem, you can't ignore it. You have to go to it. So I don't know, just through these words, and they kind of inspired me. And I'm like, well, what can I do to make a difference in the community? And what I've tried to do is just align myself with other positive thinkers who want to make a difference. And so that's what I've done these last few months. Is I've just been hanging out with the doers who want to help clean up, right? And not just complain, but do our part.
So how did you come up with the idea to focus solely on 12 Points and revitalizing that area?
Okay, so the reason I was driving through 12 Points one day about a little over a year ago, and I just saw some of the history. If you've ever looked at the architecture in Terre Haute, some of the buildings that we have even downtown, 12 Points used to be a booming area. It was like the first city of Terre Haute. A lot, railways went through, or train stations were there, and it was just a bustling community in that 12 Points area. So if you look at the architecture, you'll see tile work and stained glass that's been there for years and years and years, but it needs some TLC. And so what I've learned through different work in the community is that several pieces of property in 12 Points are on the National Historic Registry. And I just feel like now at least for me, I just want to help tell the story of Terre Haute, but transform it, it's that whole preservation transformation thing. Preserve what we can because it's on the National Historic Registry, but modernize it in a way that we can get that part of town going again and help our local economy.
What was your train of thought with becoming such an integral part of the leadership aspect of this initiative, as opposed to just letting other people do it?
Okay, well, Well, I'm not even from 12 Points actually, but my mom and dad grew up in that area, and they both went to Garfield High School that was in that area. And, you know, they have such great memories of being in the early 70s and just having a lot of fun with their friends. And my only really tie to it is Ring Brings Pizza, when I used to go there when I was about 5 or 6 years old, because it was my dad's favorite pizza. But as far as taking on more of like a co-founder role, I'm just a doer. And what I found is that people want to help. A lot of people want to help, and there's so many people that have been a part of this project. But you know, people kind of wait on somebody to take initiative and get things organized. People will always help. As soon as somebody takes on a role, they're like, okay, this is what we're doing. This is the project we're working on. People will show up. You give them the supplies they need to do it, and people will always help. But they just kind of, you know, wait on somebody to get it organized.
Have you been happy with the growth that the group has seen recently?
Yeah, and it's just, we have different people that show up to our meetings. We have our general meetings once a month. And every time we have a meeting, it's like new faces show up. And everybody's got a talent. And I've met several people, like a man and his wife showed up that they offered to refurbish stained glass windows for us for free.
That's amazing.
Right, I know. And artists that people want to paint murals. And I think people are willing to give their time as long as we take care of the supplies. Right. So,
and I think the growth really comes from having such positive co-founders and like that leadership on the Facebook page. But what do you really attribute it to?
I think because we do little projects that show improvements over time. Now, when we talk about revitalizing the entire area, that's 5 to 10 years down the road. That's multi-millions of dollars. But I think if we continue to do small projects down the road, even if it's just painting some buildings or painting a crosswalk with music notes or getting some butt buckets made or flowers put out, just those little things, and cleaning it up, getting litter and cleaning up the weeds, those things give people hope.
Yeah, and those are the things that people can do specifically. Is there anything else? I know there's the mural and the trash pickups and all of that stuff.
Well, if people want to get involved and learn about like they can read our meeting minutes. We don't have a website yet, but we have a Facebook page, 12 Points Revitalization Initiative, and then I'll post like when our meetings are there, and then they can just email that page. If they go to the page, they can email the page, and we can add them to the email list, and that way they know what's going on and when. Yeah.
Is there anything more broad that people can do?
Well, they can be positive. As far as if they want to like help in some capacity, or you know what, even if they don't want to help in 12 Points, just in a bigger capacity to help the community, it's really just kind of, you have to start somewhere. And sometimes people maybe don't want necessarily help with 12 Points because they don't have a tie there. Okay, well, you know, what can you do in other parts of the community, right? So hopefully it inspires action in other parts. Maybe it inspires people to clean up their own curbs, and I think sometimes we wait on the city to do it or clean up our curbs and stuff. And I'm like, but if you're physically able, you can pick up trash in your area, and take your kids out and make them more aware of it, or grandkids. They really like to. Kids really like to pick up trash, which is kind of like, I always see happy faces. And here's another thing. When we've organized cleanups, I always meet people along the way that are willing to help. Strangers I've never met before. Yeah.
That's amazing, really cool, though, that people want to help out. And
they do.
Especially in the blighted areas.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk a little bit about the events that are coming up? I know Trunk or Treat's happening. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. The one that we have on the books is October 26th. It's a Saturday, and it's from 6 to 8 p.m. Check-in will be at Harmony Hall, the parking lot where Harmony Hall is. And I think it's 1257 Lafayette Avenue. And so we're actually going to have the library there. And as far as I know, the library is going to provide us with the treat bags, so kids can use that. And then there's no age limit. Somebody asked me about that. And then what we're going to do is distribute treat bags and route maps, and so we'll have area churches participating with their decorated trunks, and then we'll have a few local businesses as well handing out candy so that people can go in and out of the businesses too.
We're really excited to help with that, and we're glad that you guys took that on. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah.
So I'm really moved by the Facebook page because it's so positive. Like, everyone on the page possesses positivity and spreads it. And the one rule of the Facebook page is that everyone must be kind to each other.
Right.
So as a leader of that page, what does that one rule mean?
So we have about 5 administrators of the page. If you're aware of Facebook, then you can make, the administrators have control over the content. So so in order to stay kind, if there are any kind of derogatory or negative things on there, they get removed pretty quickly. The administrators are on there probably most regularly.
Yeah.
So if anybody posts, a negative pictures or whatever, kind of putting negative thoughts in people's minds, then we kind of shut it down. So I think that's important, though, to be like a community manager for for social media, that you kind of regulate it.
Yeah.
I mean, you want people to be able to voice their opinion, but if you have an opinion, then it should be done in a private manner.
Yeah. And
send a direct message instead of a public wall.
Well, is there anything else that you'd like to share today? It can be a story, a piece of advice, a call to action.
I will share a story.
Yeah, go ahead.
So when we've been doing these cleanups, it's real meaningful to me to do them with my dad, because he's retired, and my dad's always had a shovel in his hand his entire life. So it gives him meaning to get the dirt off the curbs and put it in the tree row and things like that. And it also helps with the drains, keep the drains flowing. But one day we were out there and we were shoveling the dirt off the sidewalks, and there was a woman out there that offered to help me, and she offered to give a shovel, and she didn't have much, and she told me that she liked to work out, and but anyway, she said that she'd like a yoga mat but couldn't afford one, and I just happened to have one in my car. So I gave her my yoga mat, and I saw her probably 3 months later, and she gave me the biggest hug, and you would have thought I would give her a gold necklace, but all I did was give her a yoga mat. So I guess that type of stuff, like, you feel really blessed when you make a difference. And I didn't even ask that lady to help, and she didn't ask me for anything, but she was willing to pick up a shovel, and she just, she didn't have a lot, but what she did have, you could tell that she appreciated it.
Yeah.
And I just think that you just never know who you're going to meet, and I don't know, it just touched my heart. And I felt like I impacted her life forever, just that small gesture. And not only to help her, I just, we help the community too. So anyway, it just makes me want to cry when I think about it, right? So I don't know. And I've just met several people on these cleanups. It makes me feel good. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in making a difference and helping this area of Terre Haute, the 12 Points Revitalization page is always joinable. Anyone can join the page.
Anybody can join it, and we'll accept it.
I'd like to thank you for joining us today and for your efforts in the community as a whole.
Yeah, oh gosh. No, I mean, it takes an entire team. I just kind of tagged along to Trash Bagger Society and met a couple people along the way that helped me get involved in 12 Points. So I'm really appreciative of Susan Martis and Karen Long. They started cleaning up 12 Points over a year ago. So anyway, can't forget them.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.